Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shane Rooney and from the GSMA, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Smart Mobility Summit this afternoon. And this afternoon is broken into three different sessions. So the first session is going to be about the bigger picture in terms of smart mobility, and we have some excellent speakers that I'll talk to you about in a few minutes. And the second session is on new mobile technologies that we are seeing that have emerged or just commercialized, like mobile edge computing, 5G, etc. So we're going to explore that area. And the third session will be all around data. And we've been, I suppose, talking about how data works in smart mobility and how it needs to work to actually make it smart and to a reality for all of us so we can use it. So three different sessions, little breaks in between those. Hopefully you'll come back and join us for all of those sessions. And finally, after the last session, we have a networking drinks event, which I'm sure you'll join us for. So hopefully you'll all be here at that time when we finish. So let me just first give you, I suppose the last 2 years have been sort of like a wilderness in terms of how we are dealing with the pandemic and smart mobility. And I'd like to share a few things that we see at the GSMA. And the GSMA have been working around smart mobility for many years now with automotive OEMs, with municipalities and governments, trying to make, cellular technology at the heart of smart mobility. Because we've all got smartphones, we all use apps, we use payments. It's logical sense that's the technology that's behind that. So some things that's happened, I suppose, from our point of view. Let's look at aftermarket devices, for instance. The smartphone has replaced essentially the personal navigation device that you used to have on your screen that you clip on. Most people now who don't have in-car navigation, for instance, will be using Google Maps or something similar to that to get them mobile. And obviously, we're not all in the cars all the time. We're in public transport, we're going places in cities, and we want to continue that experience and that journey. So that is something we've seen. For vehicles, we've seen new safety systems come in, like eCall, connecting vehicles. We've seen, if you like, the introduction of V2X technologies. We're just right at the start of that, but that is something we're going to see develop in the next few years. And dash cams we've had dash cams a number of years, but now connected dash cams are certainly something we're seeing a lot more of. And perhaps wherever you come from, if you live in a city, you've probably seen more connected scooters rather than connected bikes. There seems to be a little bit of a transition over the last year or so to scooters. And we've seen sort of, if you like, on a policy end of things from municipalities and city authorities of these low emission zones networks where roads are shut off to pedestrians and personal transportation like scooters. So we're seeing a lot of that trend happening now. So we're going to see a lot more of that. This is some data from GSMA Intelligence in terms of where some of the big trends are happening over the next year or so. But we still have some challenges that we need to sort of overcome. And I've sort of grouped this into short-term challenges in which we have the pandemic and how we deal with that, and how transport systems are currently trying to recover from the pandemic, and how to manage that, how we use them is different. We've seen an acceleration in the cashless society that we weren't expecting to happen so quickly. Everything is now by card. So there has been a sort of, that acceleration has made a big difference to how we use smart transport. The supply chain, many of you will sort of remember where there were shortages in terms of goods and how we access that. Some panics in supermarkets about basic stuff. I'm sure it's pretty universal, where there was a run on pasta and toilet paper and stuff like that. It was crazy situation, and part of it was really about how the logistic chain actually works and how you track that and how you convey that information. So we've had many of these disruptions. Plus, if you're in the automotive OEM space, you've seen semiconductor shortages that has reduced the amount of cars that we have over the last few years, and continues to be a problem on that. So, but it's something that will be remedied in the very near future. In terms of medium and long-term challenges, 5G coverage is going to be a big thing in terms of how we manage that. Like any new technology, it takes a while for that coverage to emerge. If you go back to 4G or even to 3G, it took a few years before you started getting that coverage that we needed to make this work. The good thing about 5G is that it starts in cities, so you start hitting a lot of the populations, and the solutions are there. But we shouldn't forget about rural areas as well, and how we make that happen. And there is a need for more streamlined regulation as well, to make it easier for smart mobility to happen, to make it worthwhile, and for us to accept smart mobility as users. And we still have that issue about who owns data, how is data used, how it's turned into useful information going forward. But we have some opportunities with some of this new technology. You've seen a lot of more automated solutions now emerge, and will emerge in the next year or so. AI, everyone talks about AI, is probably the latest buzzword for everyone. But with AI, you also have to have good analytics on there to be able to use that, and to understand how that's going to be a benefit for everybody. And having a smarter supply chain in the long term is going to be beneficial, of course. So this session, I said, was focused on the big issues around smart mobility. And we're going to have a presentation from VinFast in a moment, Emmanuel, Bret, and then we're going to have a panel session with some of the automotive OEMs. And VinFast, if you don't know, are an emerging electric vehicle manufacturer, but you're going to find out all about that from Emmanuel in a few moments. But first, before Emmanuel does his presentation, we are going to have a video. We are going to have a video.
Hello, from Vietnam, home to one of the world's fastest growing economies. We are VinFast, a member of Vingroup's technology and industrial ecosystem. Vingroup is one of the leading conglomerates in the region. VinFast is an automotive brand with a vision of driving the global electric vehicle revolution. The automotive industry witnessed a miracle with the swift transformation of an uninhabited swampland into a state-of-the-art automotive factory, and the launch of the first 3 car models in a mere 21 months. Our manufacturing facilities can produce hundreds of thousands of electric vehicles per year and includes comprehensive workshops as well as an industrial supplier park. In just 18 months, we became one of the best-selling automotive brands and the most beloved in Vietnam. VinFast electric vehicles provide modern designs, durable performance, and the highest safety standards. Our vehicles use technology to make EV driving easy, convenient, and enjoyable. With our customers' first philosophy, we strive to deliver quality products, competitive prices, and outstanding after-sales service. We aim to give everyone the opportunity to experience smart electric vehicles. VinFast is constantly innovating with global strategic partnerships. We're also continuing to build a powerful leadership team comprised of the best minds in the business who share our dedication to creating the best products and experiences for customers worldwide. With a presence in the US, Canada, and European markets, millions of VinFast smart electric vehicles will soon be on the road, moving toward a green, smart, and sustainable future. VinFast, boundless together.
Thank you. So, Emmanuel, Bret, can I welcome you on stage and leave it to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the world of mobility by VinFast. My name is Emmanuel Bret. I'm Deputy CEO for VinFast. And today I will talk about mobility, we'll talk about technology, and I will talk about sustainability. But first of all, what is the DNA of VinFast? We want and we are connected intelligence globally. We truly believe that to have the best product in the world today, we need to connect the best talents, the best minds, the best company in the world. And this is what we are doing. We are creating premium products with competitive pricing and exceptional customer services. We have 4 values. The first one is an outstanding design. The second one is technology. The third one is customer experience. And the last one, and probably the most important, is sustainability. We believe that sustainability is key in the technology. And all of these, we will make it fast, because a customer requests to have speed. Let's start with design. We have decided to work with the best designer in the world. And as you may know, they are located in Italy. Pininfarina, for instance, or Torino, you can see what kind of design we will bring on the market. We create emotion. Secondly, technology. Advanced smart services. We have divided technology in 2 areas. The first one is a driving experience. Everything around the car. Safety, everything that could happen when you drive or even when you take the road without driving. The second area is about living experience. We all have created our own ecosystem. We don't have the same one. We don't have the same interest. We use different apps. We live together, but we live in a different way. We have, each of us, a different way of life. And VinFast will bring into the car your individualized and particular way of life. It's not only to extend what you have at home, but it's really to recreate your own ecosystem. Let's have some example, concrete example. We have decided to have a partnership with ZF. ZF is probably most of the recognized and really well-known company, German company. They bring for us ADAS technology. They bring for us radar, LiDAR, all these technology which are extremely important in the future to bring to our customer the most of the safety and really the best technology in the car. The second one is more about living. I told you about ecosystem. We will work, and we have already started with Cerence. Cerence and us, we have created a really fantastic new area. You will have what we call a digital twin car, which means that your car will be as well in the digital world, in a specific platform, in the cloud, where you as a customer will be able to find in this cloud everything you want to know about the car, all the technique problems or all the technique feature you want to know about your car. But this is not enough. The car will be able to really recognize you and to bring what you need to bring your ecosystem inside. So this is a second digital car which will always interact with you and which will interact with what is happening outside. For instance, traffic jam, for instance, snow during the night. All these kind of things we will be able to adapt continuously. Last but not least, we are really proud to announce that we will start a partnership with LeasePlan. Why did we decide this? Because we want to support and to accelerate in the B2B area, the electromobility world. It's not only about private customer. It's about B2B. It's about small, medium, big companies. They should be leaders in electromobility to change the world. And we want, with this plan and with all the leasing facilities and the leasing solution we'll bring, to really support actively this change. So to summarize, VinFast Smart Services will bring to all our customers everything they need in terms of technology for driving experience, for living experience. But this is not enough. Technology should bring sustainability. Technology without sustainability is not the future. So what we have decided? We have decided to keep the ownership and the control of the battery. We are the only one to do this. Why we have decided this? We said to the customer, you will lease the battery because we'll give you full transparency about what will happen with the battery. We will organize and control the recycling. This is the most important thing in the car industry. What happens with the battery? We will have a battery factory in the future, and anyway, from day one, we will keep the control, recycle the battery. And we'll offer to the customer a warranty for life. We'll offer to the customer maintenance, but we will keep, once again, the ownership. And the second really important topic about keeping this battery ownership is that we are able to offer very competitive price in the premium segment. If you're in front of me, it's because you are a pioneer. You like technology. So it's time for you to become Vin pioneer. It's time for you to jump into this new world. We have created a VinFast program. In this program, we offer a unique NFT. Yes, we are the first one to use blockchain for reservation. You will have your digital wallet where all the benefits will be inside. We offer traceability. We offer transparency to our customer. You will have the benefit of ADAS package and all the new technology coming with our cars. And last but not least, it's not only about digital. It's about physical as well. And on behalf of you, we will plant a tree in Vietnam to support Earth, to support the environment. Because we believe that it's not only 100% digital, it's from digital to physical. Just want to say thank you very much. Let's connect intelligence globally together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emmanuel. If you can join us here. So, very interesting presentation, a bright future for VinFast and customers, a different way of approaching things. So we're going to have the panel session now, so I'd like to invite the other panelists to come up and join us. So Alexandra Renner from BMW Group and Vasilios Aguidos from, which hat have you got on today? ASD Europe. Thank you. So Vasilis, I'm going to start with you on this. So urban mobility is one of the big trends that we're seeing, and we've seen many examples perhaps of aerial personal transportation at shows like here at Mobile World Congress and other big shows around the world. When are we going to see UAMs operating for real?
Can you hear me?
Oh, keep going.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, just about.
It's better? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question. First, I would like to give some background who represent today. In fact, I mainly represent the ASD, which is Aerospace and Defense Industries Association of Europe. So this is all the aerospace industries association in Europe. I work for Airbus. Airbus is one of the members, along with other European aerospace manufacturers. At ASD, we have created a committee on urban air mobility. So we try to develop as industry our perspective view on this emerging sector and wider ecosystem. This also aligns with the work that I do within Airbus. There is another activity that I will not talk too much, but I will mention during our discussion, which is in fact the role of smart cities and local authorities in this new emerging mode of mobility. So to answer your question, you referred about aerial personal transportation. I think we have to be a little bit clear, because this is the sort of thinking technologies came up many years ago. And also it is a cultural thing. This personal transportation from the air, it has been something coming mainly from the United States, where is not the situation in Europe. And I think this is because of the experiences we have with public transportation and how we use it in the different continents. So we see more and more that this aerial personal transportation is not really what we're looking for. In the context of sustainability, as also mentioned by Emmanuel, we see more and more, and especially from the European policy perspective, that it has to be part of an overall integrated, say, urban or regional mobility. So it cannot be a standalone mode. So if we want to add the third dimension to mobility, it means we need to explore how we can make it complementary. This is why, for those who follow a little bit the topic, you've seen we have already many automotive makers that have been exploring what could they do there. Is it something that is going to replace the car? And this is where this personal transportation was coming. So we have like Hyundai, Toyota, Daimler, different type of companies they explore. So the situation here is that these so-called air taxis, although people in aviation, they don't like this terminology, is not that they are going to be similar to cars or flying cars, as you have heard. If we take the context that these have to be in some way an effective and efficient complement to existing transportation systems, then they have to be closer perhaps to a shuttle or to a bus. But today the technology is not yet there. So if we look on more individual mobility like the Uber type, then we are going to see that certain objective challenges will come, because it means that every one of us should have access to airspace. And although we may say that there is more airspace than the ground space, there are certain limitations that are coming from regulatory issues or topics. The reason why today aviation and air transportation is the safest means to travel, it's because there are a lot of regulations with redundancies. So how do we bring this now to an urban environment? It is a little bit a different story, where the aviation world has to adapt to the constraints and requirements of the urban life, but at the same time, the urban life and the urban mobility to understand the constraints that are coming from having flying things over your head. And just to clarify a little bit here, when we talk about urban air mobility, it is not only about passengers. It's about the transportation of goods. So this means not only the sort of bigger flying taxis or flying cars, as people say, but also smaller drones that could be used for different types of logistics, whether it is commercial or if it is medical deliveries, for example.
These masks or something else. So, thank you, Vasilis. I'm going to come back to you on this aerial taxi thing in a while, and I'd like your opinions in the audience as well. But since you can't talk, you may need to just raise your hands to the question. But I'd like to move on to you, Alex, and talk a little bit about the work that you're doing at BMW. So it's a very different area of BMW, something new in that respect. So, we've got a lot of trends going on with smart mobility around sustainable transport and electrification, as we've seen with cars. Can you tell us a little bit about BMW Startup Garage and your role in that and what you're doing in that area?
Yes, absolutely. Do you hear me? Perfect. So the BMW Startup Garage is a venture client unit. That means that our goal is to become one of the first clients of a startup that has a product we can test, but a product that is not market ready yet. That means that, in fact, we're a kind of a matchmaker between startups that offer innovative solutions in the fields that you mentioned, and our business units that have the need for innovations, especially the need for innovations where they cannot rely on the innovation power of existing suppliers. At the end of the day, we support startups with the setup of pilot projects, but also all along the way until the serious long-term partnership between BMW and the startup as a supplier. So what we see in the last years that startups become more and more important as a source for innovation. That means that many of the innovations that we see in sustainability, but also in customer experiences or connected cars, come from startups. And today, it's still a challenge for a big corporate like BMW to collaborate with startups. We have special requirements, sometimes maybe too slow processes, so it's not that easy. But I think that in future, startups will become more relevant and they will become regular players in the whole automotive supplier network. So I've brought one example with me. There's a startup from Israel called Tactile Mobility, and they have a solution for the sensing of road conditions. So they came into our program maybe 3 years ago, and their solution is already available for all BMW customers. So what do they do today? Today they enhance the driving experience for our customers. And the next step that will come, especially with autonomous driving, will be the fact that they will be able to communicate all road condition informations, but also informations about hazards to other vehicles, which will make the driving experience more safe and also more connected.
Thank you. So you talked about sustainability. Emmanuel, I mean, you talked in your presentation as well about how this new idea of batteries will be there, recycling, how you're going to manage all that, and the sustainability of that. But also in terms of customer experience and digitization in your presentation, how do you think connectivity will make cars much more multi-role than ever before that we had?
We truly believe that, once again, digitalizations or connectivity is a nice word, but it should be adapted to the customer and to all our needs. For instance, if we think about work or home office, you may have some different expectations than other people. You may not. Maybe you are retired, you don't have any. Maybe you have a lot. Maybe you expect that your car, when you will enter in, you will have all your agenda ready, some reminder, maybe not. The same in your private life. You probably expect to have the weather forecast every morning, or you don't mind, or you want to have all the information about the traffic jam. So this is really something that we are working deeply. Yes, there is all the part for the safety, autonomous driving, which are key because we all know that we are going into these directions. And at VinFast, we want to have the best technology. This is why we have chosen the best partner. But this is not enough. How can we be really individual minded? And I mean really to approach every customer in a separate and really personal manner. This is what we call these customer services. It's not the same thing for everyone. If you check your mobile phone, for instance, I'm sure that we don't have all the same apps. So it just means that we don't have the same needs. Some are common, but some others are not. So we will offer some common services to everyone, but we will be able to adapt as well, really in detail, what is your need. The car will recognize it, and the car will adapt to what the customer wants.
Thank you. Vasilis, I want to come back to that topic of the aerial taxis. And, you know, many of us have seen these aerial taxis and maybe unsure whether they actually want to go up in one or feel safe in that particular area. What do you think the levers are for UAMs? What do we need to do here?
First of all, can you hear me? Doesn't work? Yeah. It works? Yes. So, first of all, safety. It has to be something which is given. It's a prerequisite. And this, I think, everybody realizes we cannot go in an urban environment or regional environment and talk about safety per se. If it is not safe, it shouldn't be used. Of course, in the aviation and aerospace, especially on the aviation part, the safety of the vehicle. It is, the sort of big aim, because we fly. So we do everything to ensure that there is the so-called airworthiness of the vehicle. So, however, when you go in an urban context, you consider this is given. You never question whether a bus or a car, it is safe. We explore for the next level of passive or active safety, but there is no any issue of really driving the car, right? So this is one aspect that relates to safety, and it can be expanded to a certain extent to security, where security, and especially the context of what is the theme of this event here, goes to security relates to cyber security, to the different connections you have, whether they are 5G or not, where how all these air vehicles will become part of a digitalized air traffic management, so to avoid collisions between them, but also each air vehicle will be a digital, say, node. So it can be traced and emit, communicate, and receive different types of information. So there is this type of security. Now, this is a technological aspect. And of course, there are a lot of challenges there that they relate also to what is the energy that is going to propulse these vehicles. Emmanuel mentioned about the importance of battery and how do you manage the battery. There are two approaches on how we're considering to develop these vehicles. There is the battery aspect. So many of their taxis you may have seen, if not all, they are battery-based, but there are certain limitations of how the battery technology could be applied to aviation. That's why you see that alternatives or that are hydrogen-based are developed. And I say there are limitations because batteries are heavy, and the actual weight is the biggest enemy in aviation, in aeronautics. The other problem is that still the energy you need to concentrate in order to fly only is sufficient for limited, I would say, ranges. Of course, this could be expanded, but then it comes the question, even if everybody could fly, is it what we really want as a society? And I want to start to raising the issues here about the wider responsibility we have, both as industry, but also as citizens. Because many of the things you have seen here, and is coming from the automotive, it goes on the passenger or driver experience, it goes on the convenience. But this is where I think we have to be a little bit careful. Because if we operate only in the name of convenience, we may end up with what I say often, end up with the automotive paradigm, which is not the best case of where we see how cars have been used today. And in fact, cities are trying to take cars outside of the cities and they encourage shared mobility, use of public transportation. So if we just keep in mind what the technology can do and what is the convenience for the passengers, we may end up to have a lot of flying vehicles, aircraft over our heads, including drones for different deliveries. This could be delivery of a pizza or delivery of logistics like Amazon type or medical delivery. So we as citizens, as industry, as society, we have to take charge of the responsibility we have on how we want to use this technology. Do we want to use, for example, drones for delivery of pizzas, or we want to use them mainly for medical deliveries? Do we want to use the so-called air taxis to go from A to B no matter what? Or we want to use perhaps for more critical applications, whether it could be an air ambulance or perhaps some critical needs to move, whether it is an airport or perhaps for elder people. Today we discuss a lot about businessmen using this. So why the business model? I think we have to consider that we are in a transition phase where I think the priority for the planet, it is not speed that much, but it's more about sustainability and responsibility. And this is a big paradigm shift. We're still, I think, operating our minds as business people that we need to do everything fast. Yes, still we have to do things fast, but I think what it comes as a priority now is the responsibility we have towards sustainable transitions.
Thanks, Sebastian. You got me on? Yeah. So I'll come to you, Alex, actually, on that, in terms of that subject. How do you deal with your startups in educating them about safety and security, which are the watchwords of the automotive industry, which you hinted earlier on, takes a long time maybe for the product to emerge. How is it going to work with startups in managing that?
Well, actually, startups already play an important role for BMW in terms for the development of security solutions. So Emmanuel mentioned the digital twin technology. There's also a startup where we evaluate currently how this technology can help us to monitor all our cars, starting from our fleet, ending with the connected cars that we have all around there. So yeah, I mean, a startup basically it's just an isolated solution. So as an OEM, as an integrator, we have the role of integrating all the different solutions along the Tier N supply chain in order to make sure that we offer a safe solution to our customers. But thinking about future mobility, as Vasilis mentioned, it's not only about safety, security, it's also about sustainability. And I think that landscape changed a lot in the past years. Last year, we ran a sustainability challenge in order to find solutions that help BMW to become greener and more sustainable. And we received hundreds of applications, and I've never seen so many startups that contribute to a sustainable future. So, as some examples, we're now working with startups that have vegan and sustainable leather alternatives, or startups in the field of electrification, which is huge and will play an important role for air mobility, but also for new players in that field as well. By the way, I like your concept for the battery leasing. But we also need to find solutions that help us to track our emissions or the provenance of our components. It's not only about compensation, but it's also about understanding where does my component really come from, how much CO2 do we have due to the transport of that component, for instance.
Thank you. And I just want to come to the audience, and if you can raise your hand really on this. Unfortunately, we can't take any questions for health and safety reasons, I'm afraid. So if I could ask you just to raise your hand, if you would be willing to go in an aerial taxi today, is that something you see that you could do right now? Oh, quite a lot. Excellent. I think you've got some test pilots to work on here. Okay, great. So we've just got a couple of questions left. So I'm going to come to you, Emmanuel, because you talked about customer experience and you're doing new ways of having different types of customer experience. And you're looking at like how we do payments for vehicles, how we do purchases. How do you think things like blockchain and an NFT are going to play a role in smart mobility and how they would get your vehicle?
We are the first one to use NFT and blockchain for car reservation. So what does it mean? It means that every customer will reserve a car, VinFast will have a digital wallet. And blockchain for that is really interesting because it brings traceability, it brings data safety, security, let's say, data security. So all the benefits in our reservation program are put in this wallet. And after the customer can decide to keep it or even to transfer it. So this is the first step. To be completely honest with you, we are just at the beginning of this technology. So we still have plenty of area to improve and to discover with the NFT. What is really important to know is that once again, in terms of data storage, data security, this is the best we can have today. And I think the car industry, it's something which has been for a long time an issue, to have this full transparency about the car ownership, about what happens with your car the last 3, 5, 10 years. With NFT, we see a huge potential to really give full transparency to each of our customers and for them to be able to manage, in our case, the loyalization program, but even much more than that. So we jump into the future. We have done this NFT solution for the reservation, and we expect to do even much more for the future, to be honest.
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. So we've sort of come almost to the end of the panel session. So I'd like to invite the panelists to make a closing statement. So if we're going to start with you, Vasilis, in terms of what you'd like to share with us. The microphone.
Can you hear me? It's okay. So the closing statement will be, we're talking about future mobility solutions. So I think we all agree that no matter the type of this future mobility, whether it is from the ground or from the air, the safety and security are the prerequisites. Now, the responsibility we have, whether as industry or as users or even as citizens, is the sustainability aspects, the different types of responsibility we have on the actual use, and how we can achieve the wider societal embracement, whether we use or we don't use this type of solutions. And this, it is not a prerequisite yet, but it is definitely an imperative.
Thank you, Vasilis. And Alex, your final thoughts and words to the audience.
Well, as already mentioned before, I think that startups will become more and more important. It doesn't depend if you're talking about air mobility or urban mobility. So they have solutions, innovative solutions that big industry incumbents often don't think about. So I'm really looking forward to the next years and to all the innovations that we will have by startups. And yeah, I think that's the final statement.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alex. And Emmanuel, your thoughts?
To conclude, at VinFast, we connect intelligence globally. Because we really believe there is no one solution. There are solutions all over the world, and it's when all these solutions will be all together, we can create a product which will be the future of mobility and which will be sustainable. And this is why we really believe this is the only way to go and to move to this fantastic new world.
Fantastic. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank Vasilis, Alex, and Emmanuel for coming along today and sharing their thoughts with you.